Good morning. Thank you all for being here. It's a great day to be a Suns fan and a member of the Suns family. As we welcome Monty Williams as the next coach of the Phoenix Suns. Monty is a man of integrity, a very good coach, a very good man. His experience in all facets of basketball as a coach, player development, on the offensive side of the ball, defense side of the ball, in the front office, gives him a unique perspective that I think is well suited for our franchise and for our players. He's well respected amongst his peers, amongst the players, and we know as we move forward that mix of character, those traits will guide us well. So with that, I want to thank Monty, his wife Lisa, and their family for accepting us as a family and becoming a part of the Phoenix Suns organization. And with that, I'll turn it over to our next head coach, Monty Williams.
Thank you, James. I want to thank God for this opportunity. He's blessed me more than I deserve, and I'm mindful that a lot of people could be in this position. And I want to thank Mr. Sarver for his hiring of me and bringing my family here to Phoenix, and James for trusting me and partnering with me. Our conversations the last few weeks have not only excited me, but given me something that I don't feel like I've had in a long time. It's just being able to have something that he and I not only can have here, but he and I will be friends for a long, long time going forward, just based on who we are and our value system and how much we want to not only bring success here to this city, but have an impact on all of the young men that we get to work with. And I'll miss a ton of people as far as thank yous go. Obviously want to thank you guys for coming out. Mikhail for coming out today to support us and this city and all of the people and the well wishes. So many people have gotten in touch with me in the NBA and in this city in particular, just making my family feel really welcome. And so I am more than excited and committed to getting this thing going in the right direction, which it already was before I came. And that was a huge reason for me committing to this team. And so I'm just thankful for Greg Popovich and R.C. Buford giving me a chance to coach. That's where it started for me, and not only coaching, but they gave me a chance to work in management, which gave me a different perspective. As James talked about, I think I have a bit more empathy for other people now because I think a little bit differently. The Philadelphia 76ers, Brett Brown, Josh Harris, all of the people there that gave me a chance this past year to dive right into coaching and basically be a head coach again because of the way Brett delegates and manages. So, and my family, my new wife, Lisa, and my kids who are so excited to get down here to Phoenix. Just want to thank them for dealing with me and my crazy schedule and all of the stuff that goes with our jobs. So I'll turn it over to questions and all that stuff, but I'm just really thankful for this opportunity.
Technical difficulties.
Thank you. Well, one, they hired me, and I mean that respectfully. Like, these jobs are hard to come by. There's only 30, and when someone commits to you to be a head coach, that's a huge thing. And so one, they hired me, and two, it was the people that I was going to work with. Mr. Sarver and James and Jeff, Trevor, Allie Mitchell, so many amazing people that I've gotten to know the past 2-3 weeks, and the players. I mean, when you look at our talent, to have a Devin Booker, and DeAndre and Mikhail, and on and on and on, the possibilities in free agency and the draft, was more than appealing to me. But it's an NBA job, and I hope I've never lost sight of the fact that I'm in the NBA. As a kid, that's all I wanted, was to be in the league. And I think this is, 25, 26 years for me in the NBA, and I just don't take that for granted. As I said, these jobs are hard to come by, but to be with James and with Mr. Sarver, and to be in a city like Phoenix. I've always admired the city from afar. We always stayed up in that Camelback area, and it was like, man, this is pretty nice. So all of those things really helped me make a decision to commit to this, but the main one was they hired me.
Monty, Brad Susmat, Sports 360 AZ,
Hey, Brad.
welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
If you were to go a little deeper on the roster that you are going to be coaching and
Sure.
what you see specifically to why this team has not been able to get over the hump, and how close do you believe that they are to getting over the hump?
The whys, one, they're young. Two, the West is really difficult. That's no excuse for 19 wins, but the guys are talented on this team. And when I watch film, I see in Devin, I see a guy who could be a household name here soon. He reminds me so much of a Brandon Roy, who I coached in Portland. And at the time, Brandon, Dwayne Wade, and Kobe Bryant, when we were in Portland, they were running the league. And I feel like Devin has a chance to be like that or eclipse that. I feel like he has the game that can not only put up points in the regular season, but he has a game that's fit for the playoffs. And anytime you can give the ball to a player and get a bucket, that's a luxury. And I feel like Devin has that ability, and DeAndre, the skill set that he has and the ability that he has at that age is exciting. And so I'll have to dive into the film a ton more to give you a better answer, and I'm doing that as we speak. Young teams typically get out to big leads, and then late third quarter, early fourth quarter, you'll see a break where a veteran team or a more experienced team can overcome a young team. And I think it just takes time to understand how to play for 48 minutes plus, and I think that's something that our guys are going to embrace.
Coach Jude LaCava, Fox 10 Sports, congratulations.
Thank you.
Give us an impression of the type of system you are going to implement offensively, defensively. Is this going to be an extension of San Antonio, Greg Popovich, or are you? I mean, no, I'm saying based on what you've learned, and you alluded
Sure.
to RC and to Coach, or give us some impressions there.
Sure. The way that I'd like to play will be based on our team. We don't know right now what the team is going to look like, but we will play through Devin and DeAndre. Those guys have the ability to draw double teams and make other players better. Obviously, you want to play fast, but for me, playing fast does not mean rushing the ball down the floor. There's nothing proven that says rushing the ball down the floor leads to wins. A couple of years ago, Brooklyn was leading the league in pace, but they didn't have a great record because they were young. And now I would say that's changed a little bit. For me, pace is playing quickly with the ball and under control. So you either shoot it, drive it, or move it. But holding the ball, if you watch the playoffs, anytime a guy holds the ball, you allow the defense to get into a load position, and it's easier to guard. One of the things I did learn in San Antonio was they had a wear-down effect. The ball movement, player movement would wear teams out. And then in the fourth quarter, they would take that Spurs push, and they'd be up by 10 to 15, and the game would be over. And you can see that with Golden State, the way they beat Portland. The ball movement, player movement, it just wears you out. And so we want to adopt some of those things, and at the same time, I don't want to take away from the creativity that Devin has. Yeah, he's a special player, and I don't want to get in the way of that. Defensively, we have a lot to improve on. Transition will be where our defensive world starts, and we have to be able to take away the three ball. We're no different than any other program. Everybody wants to take away the three ball, and you have to be able to rebound once you do that. And so it takes time to put that kind of defensive system in. Hopefully, with our staff that we're trying to put together, we'll be able to do that, but it's going to take time.
Coach Joe Pequeno, Arizona Family Sports, congratulations on being here.
Thank you.
Coach, I think everyone in this room wants to see the Phoenix Suns get back to the playoffs.
Sure.
It's been a long, suffering time for fans here in the Valley. That being said, why do you think you'll be successful when we've seen so many coaches in the past years fail? What will you do that ultimately will get this team back on track, make it a force in the NBA, and make it one of the most respected franchises in the NBA? Because, frankly, this franchise has lost its luster on the national stage.
Well, it'll be a combination of things. Continuity, having a staff here for a while and putting in a system that the players can rely upon, but ultimately it'll come down to James, myself, and the players pushing this thing forward. The players are going to have to embrace a level of work and commitment that it takes to be a champion. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win a championship. This team, this organization has won the 5th most games in NBA history. That's a huge thing. And you enter the 52nd year. Maybe we've lost luster, but the tradition is still there. And if you look at the tradition and the good teams that Phoenix had, they embraced those things. We have to build championship habits. The culture has to take a bit of a leap this summer. We can't wait until October to take a leap in culture. And it's going to require our guys to embrace the little things. It'll be a war of attrition this summer. Showing up on time, working hard, defending, sharing the ball, and having a high care factor are things that I believe allow you to build a culture. And if you have a culture, then you can deal with the on-court stuff. And so it's not going to be easy, and there's no one formula for it. Different teams have different formulas, but this is what I believe, and James and I are going to continue to build the culture the way that we see fit, and I think our guys will embrace that.
Yes, he wants me to reintroduce myself. Dwayne Rankin, Arizona Republic. You opened up thanking Robert Sarver. That was one of the things that you did. Obviously, you two talked, and what in those conversations made you feel more comfortable about taking the job, whether it was things that he felt like he didn't do in the past or maybe made mistakes on in the past or how he would move forward that made you say, okay, I'm more comfortable taking this job?
Number one, in my conversations with Mr. Sarver, I saw someone who didn't duck the tough questions. We both had tough questions for each other. And in this day and age where people throw each other under the bus, make excuses, blame, I didn't see that. I saw a man who really wants to bring success to this city. And I mean that with all of my heart, or I wouldn't have come. James and I are a lot alike in that we just want to do the right things. And I saw that with Mr. Sarver. For him to take ownership of his past was huge for me because I had to do the same thing. He had tough questions for me. And if you look at my past, I've done some things, said some things in the media that I wish I could have taken back. And so that's what I saw. I saw a man who's passionate, a man who cares about the city. And in our conversations, I just felt that. I felt like he really wants to bring something to the city that's pretty cool, and I wanted to be a part of that.
Hey, Monty, Gina Mizell from The
Hi,
Athletic
Gina.
here. Just how would you describe your managerial style, whether it's working with the players, whether it's delegating with your staff, and maybe
Yeah.
how has that changed, or what have you learned about that
Yeah.
since the last time you were a head coach in New
Yeah.
Orleans?
When I first started coaching in New Orleans, I thought I had the answers. I was a lot younger, probably more brash, more stubborn. Now I'm just starting to figure out the questions, if that makes sense. And I'm probably in a place in my life where I'm more apt to listen and delegate more. My coaching style is probably based on servanthood. That's my heart, is to serve the organization, to serve the players, to put the people that I work with in a position to be successful. I want guys to be excited to come to work. I want the players to be excited about what we're doing. That doesn't mean we're not going to work hard, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to tell them the truth. But I think as I've evolved as a coach, I understand the difference between telling someone the truth and embarrassing them. And that was one of my flaws in New Orleans. My truth-telling at times could embarrass players, and that was something that I had to deal with. And I spent a lot of time talking to former players, and they would always say, "Coach, I love playing for you, but," and the "but" was something that I had to work on. And I shamefully admit to you that I wasn't happy with that. And so I've had 4 years and a lot of experiences, and I've talked to a lot of people, and hopefully I've improved in that area.
Monty and Kellen Olson with Arizona Sports, welcome. Some
Thank
might
you.
look at the situation, 19 wins, a very young roster starting from the bottom, but how excited are you to start from the bottom with this team and potentially grow something from the start?
Yeah, again, we keep using the word excited, exciting, excited, but that's what it is. There's so much room to grow. From the players to James to Mr. Sarver to a new practice site, this city, I feel like this city has always been a gem in the NBA. People love living here in the off season. Players train here, but we want to make it more than that. And, you know, the record would reflect the bottom, but I don't believe that we're at the bottom. I think we have a young team that's learning how to win, and they will. And I have to do my job. I have to enhance the strengths, but be honest about our weaknesses and get the players to consider a new way of doing some things. And at the same time, not get in the way of their creativity and the things they do well. So it's a sweet spot for me as far as potential. I think I'm here at the right time, and I'm with the right people.
Hi, Monty. Kevin Zimmerman, also from Arizona Sports. Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering if you've spoken to guys on the roster like Devin and DeAndre, and kind of what your message as far as setting the culture at this really early point has gone. I'm sure it's not extensive at this point.
No, we're going to break bread and talk. We've texted. I've talked to Mikhail. I've talked to Kelly. But this generation's so different. You know, they instant tweet and they got all these things that they do that they'd much rather do that than talk on the phone. But we're going to spend time together. That's a given. At the same time, I know that the summers are important, but for us to get where we want to go, we got to spend a lot of time connecting, and that's going to take place this summer. James and I have already started planning touching guys this summer, you know, flying around the country and maybe even the Bahamas to make sure that our guys know that we care about them, but we also want to lay a foundation for where we want to take this place.
Coach Paul Richardson went to Sportscape. Congratulations.
Thank you.
In New Orleans, you coached a veteran team, and then you coached a rebuild team.
Yeah.
Got them both to the playoffs. Mentally, how does that help you coming into this situation?
It's one of the things that appealed to me as it relates to this job. When I first got there, we had Chris Paul and David West and Emeka, Willie Green, Jared Jack. We had vets, Trevor Ariza, and I wouldn't say it was easier, but it taught me a different way to coach. Chris is a savant, and so I didn't have to call as many plays. We were always on the same page. Our defense was a top 5 defense that year. And then we broke the team down, and we started at ground zero and built it back to where it was and went to the playoffs, and I really enjoyed that, but it was a different way to coach. When we got the younger team, I was way more hands-on, even to the point of practicing with the guys at times, because I just felt like I had to show them how to play or how to do certain things. So it really taught me how to adjust to the roster. And that's why I said our style of play will be based on who we have. I think it would be irresponsible of me to force a style on the team that doesn't fit. And so as soon as we know what team we're going to have, James and I will sit down and talk about that, because I think it's going to be a collaborative effort. And that I really enjoy that part too, because James has a big-time basketball IQ, and he's a champion, been in a number of wars, and I want to be able to rely on that experience.
Hey, Coach, Mark McClune, 3TV, CBS 5. Welcome to town.
Thank you.
You mentioned the team would run through Devin and DeAndre and the Brandon Roy comp for Devin. What are your impressions of DeAndre in his rookie year?
I knew you were going to ask that. And I don't, comparing Devin to Brandon, I want to be careful with that, because I want Devin to be Devin, because he's probably going to want me to be Popovich, and I can't be Popovich. But when I look at Devin, I see a lot of Brandon. When I look at DeAndre, he has a number of attributes that, kind of remind me of David Robinson a little bit, just different, strong hand. David was lefty, but just long, lean, muscular, quick twitch, can play outside a little bit, can play around the basket. Another comp, he's not like Anthony, but they both have that ranginess about them, kind of gangly and yet still strong. And you can just see once their bodies fill out, they're going to be a problem for a lot of people. And so I want to be careful of the comparisons, because I don't want to put any one of our guys in a box. I could easily just talk about McHale, being like Michael Cooper, but he wouldn't know who I was talking about. And so I want to be careful of comparing our players to other people.
Coach Brendan Clean, SB Nation, welcome to Phoenix.
Thank you.
You've been in a variety of roles since you were last a head coach.
Yeah.
What made you feel ready after kind of jumping around to dive back into the head coaching role?
Yeah. One, I always wanted to get back into this role, but I never felt like I was entitled to be a head coach, Just because I got fired in New Orleans doesn't necessarily mean I'm owed the right to be a head coach. So I wanted to. Because of my family situation, I didn't know if I could. The things that allowed me to think that way, one was my kids. I remember when I started to, when I was away from the coaching part of my life, I just was at peace with the fact that I might not be able to do it again, just based on my family situation. And my kids, especially my daughters, weren't happy with that. And it really had an impact on me. My oldest daughter kind of read me the riot act one day about getting back into coaching. And it had a huge impact on me. And then I had a conversation with R.C. Buford one day. We were just at the office and we were talking about it. And R.C. looked me in the eyes and he said, "Your kids won't be happy if you don't get back into coaching." And so those two episodes really pushed me back into the mode of doing what I know I do well and doing what I feel like my calling is. And then there's just when people hire you and feel confident about who you are and what you do, it just makes it even better.
Coach Doug Franz from Doug and Wolf on Arizona Sports. Josh Jackson, on the court and off the court, is he part of the solution or part of the problem? How do you plan to reach him and unlock everything he has?
Well, one, I don't want to ever publicly talk about someone's situations off the floor. I don't think that's fair. I think the NBA does that too much, and I don't want to do that. Josh is a talented young man. When I was in management, I followed him in college a little bit, and so I'm familiar with him. A lot of these young guys need to know that they're okay, but they need to improve. All of us could make better decisions off the floor, and I'm at the head of that line. I just didn't get caught, and that's a reality. And so I'm not going to comment on his off-the-court stuff. I want to be a part of the solution if I can, and I think that's where I've made an impact on young men, is to be able to be transparent about my past and letting them know it's not the end. And at the same time, as Pop would say, you have to be a part of your own rescue. And so I think we all deal with that, not just Josh. And so I'm hopeful to speak with him, and we've texted, but I really want to look him in the eyes and just meet him and learn more about him and go from there.
Monty, Jody Ayler, Fox Sports 910. Devin Booker's played a variety of roles in his time with the Suns. Do you see Devin more as a primary ball handler or a guy who offensively would thrive more off ball?
Both. I think the really good players in the NBA, if you look at the playoffs, from Kawhi to Steph, Kevin, all of those guys do both. James Harden, Eric Gordon, who I coached in New Orleans, they do both. I think the beauty of Devin is he can keep teams off balance. He has the ability to bring the ball up the floor, and he also can play in live ball situations where he catches the ball and he can play off of a pivot, get a pick and roll, play in isolation. We did some of that with Jimmy Butler in Philadelphia, which really helped us. So I think he has the ability to do both, and I don't want to mess that up. I think it's going to be a lot of film study, a lot of conversations with Devin and myself to figure out the ratio of live ball situations to him bringing the ball down the floor. Because to be honest with you, every guy that I've coached, from Chris Paul to Jimmy to you name it, Brandon, those guys get tired of bringing the ball down the floor and then having to carry the team. They may not admit it, but when we're by ourselves, they'll tell you like, hey, can this guy bring the ball down the floor? And they won't tell you why, but you know why. It takes a lot of energy to shoot the ball, bring the ball down the floor, mentally react to what the game is telling you, and force your will onto the game. That takes a lot of energy. And so I don't want to mess that up, but I believe he can do both.
Coach Joe Pequeno, Arizona's family again. You kind of brought up your daughter. In your household, win, lose, or draw, after a great game, bad game, is one of your biggest critics, would you say, is your daughter?
No. My kids are, they always want to see Dad do well. I don't think I've ever come home and had one of my daughters say, dang, Dad, you guys suck. That's my boys, They like players from other teams, which drives me crazy because, we moved to a different city and I want them to adopt that team and like those players. And we'll be out in public and somebody will ask them like, hey, who's your favorite player? And they'll name somebody from another team. And that's when I want to, you can't eat your kids, so you got to raise them. So I just kind of look at them with that look and just, when we get home, boy, you're in trouble. But that's who they are. They're more honest at that age, and so they'll just tell you straight up, like, you guys didn't play that well last night, or that guy needs to pass, or you guys don't do whatever. But my boys are a lot more honest than my girls are when it comes to that stuff.
Coach Alex Clancy, Fox Sports 910. Tough out with your previous employer this year, to say the least.
You had to
how do
bring
you use
that up.
Yeah, I got it. Somebody's got to. How do you use that as a teaching moment? With Joel, a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
What do you say to the guys after something like that happens?
Well, everything counts in this league. If you look at the stat sheet, we lost by 2 points. if you look at Toronto's starting five, they had one guy with a positive plus-minus, and it was Kyle with +2, and you lose by 2 points. And then we gave up 16 offensive rebounds. So the shot, James and I talk about it. We talked about it a number of times, but it still bothers me. One, I've never seen a shot do that, hit the side of the rim and go straight up in the air and then hit it 3 more times and go in. But that wasn't it for me. That was huge, great moment for the NBA, but everything that went before that. Like when you give up 16 offensive rebounds and you put a team in a position where their starting five only has one guy with a positive plus-minus and you can't win that game, I struggle with that. And for me, as I dive into the numbers, everything counts. They allowed Serge to be an impact. He was a +22 that game. And so when you allow a guy to come off the bench, Van Fleet was a +10. And so I'm not a huge plus-minus guy, but that stuck out to me, the 16 offensive rebounds and the positive plus-minus that they had and we didn't. And so it all counts, you know. When you show up on time, the scouting report, boxing out, all of the things that Coach Brett talked about, we all knew that we could have done a better job, and coaches as well. And so to be able to impart those experiences to the players and talk about the things that I've lived, not what I've heard, I hope will have an impact on our guys.
This question is for both of you. If you could take us through the process, James, of when you knew, and Monty, when you knew that this would be the right fit. Let's start with James.
I had a previous relationship with Monty, so I had a head start as far as knowing his basketball mind, his approach, just the essence of him as a basketball guy. But after our initial meeting and we talked about the championship habits, that's where it lies for me. Championships come as a result of being great in the little things, and that's just not like verbiage that you throw around. You really have to believe it, and you have to understand how much work and energy goes into establishing those fundamental principles within a team setting. And so I had a chance to see it firsthand my time in Portland. Then I evaluated the teams that Monty coached and that he was a part of. They all exhibited the same character traits: a focus on the fundamentals and championship habits. So after our first meeting, I knew that if there was an opportunity to get him here, that we had to do it. And I'm lucky we did it, and I'm lucky he believed what we believe, which is we have enough talent. We have great guys of high character, guys who are passionate, more importantly, guys that love the game of basketball, and they just want to be taught and led and shown the path towards winning. So that was it for me.
Ditto. Yeah, that was it for me. When we talked the first time, I was already excited when they first called. And then after our first conversation together, James and Jeff and Trevor and I just casually talked about the little things. And it wasn't like an interview, we just had a conversation. And to have that kind of alignment led me to believe that this could be a positive time for me and my coaching, and the potential here could be through the roof. And hopefully we fulfill that.
Coach, you mentioned the term collaborative earlier in your discussion here. Do you have a clear understanding that you will be part of a significant say when it comes to personnel decisions regarding the draft, NBA free agency, in that collaborative effort?
Yeah. My goal is my job is to, give my opinion, but ultimately this is James's decisions. When it comes to draft and free agency, we obviously talk a lot, but I trust James, and we've said that to each other in our conversations, that we trust each other. I know that when I go home at night and when he goes home, neither one of us has to worry about that part ever. We may worry about pick and roll defense or transition defense or guys not setting screens or, other things that relate to basketball, but I trust James. And that's something that gives me a lot of confidence. I can just do my job. He values my opinion, and we've had a number of conversations, but I trust James' decision-making ability.
Greg Moore, Arizona Republic. Good to meet you, Coach. Welcome to town.
Thank you.
This will be for both of you. You guys know there's been a lot of turnover here, right? Lots of people have been in each of the chairs that you've been in over the years. How do you keep that from affecting your decision-making? How do you keep that from affecting the way that you do your job?
You want to go first?
Nope.
I mean, one, I come into this every day just excited about the future, right? So we've had turnover. I think the story always comes back to our past, and I'm not focused on our past. I'm focused on our future. The players that are on this team, the people that are part of this organization, they're hopeful, they're happy, they're excited about the future. So anytime someone starts talking about the past, I say those are the experiences that will shape our approach to the future. And our approach now is to accept, where we've been, but not accept limitations on our future. So we'll continue to come here every day, knowing that the people that are entrusted, that trust us with the franchise, and that's the fans, that's the organization, that's Robert, that we have a responsibility to come in excited and do the work. And so that's why it's not about the past, it's always about the future.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate it.